umaga, good morning again. It's Wednesday, once more, May 20. And we are, I think, on the 40th day of our lockdown. So we're still all quarantined. Today we're going to talk about the fourth basic psychological need. Remember, we have 8 videos talking about the 7 basic psychological needs. Today we're on the fourth, which is the need for a sense of competence. What does that mean? I believe that every person must know that he or she is good at something. The something doesn't have to be anything academic. Doesn't have to be math, reading. It can be swimming. It can be good at relating to people, good at farming, gardening, sewing, cooking, whatever it is. As long as the person has the sense of being good at something, that's the important thing. No? Also, a mentally or psychologically healthy person, when asked the question of who are you, the answer must contain something that the person is good at. He doesn't have to say, I am a good mother, I'm a good teacher, but person says, I'm a mother, a teacher, I'm a illustrator, whatever it is, but feeling inside that at least one of those things that she or he identifies himself with, he feels good at it. He can be proud of at least one thing. And that's very, very important. For example, parents and teachers must be very aware that children need to know what they're good at and to be recognized for it. An example that comes to mind is I think 10-year-old boy who was brought to me because he was acting out in school. He was not doing his homework, he was not coming home on time, he was not reading what he's supposed to read, and absent sometimes in school, etc. In other words, there were like 14 in the list that the parents gave me that was wrong with what this boy was doing. So I said to them, oh, we have a lot to work on, but let me ask you one thing. What is he good at? They couldn't they couldn't answer. I said, I understand because you came here with your problem, but next week when you come back, please find something he's good at. Anything. Is he good in folding clothes? I don't know. Whatever it is, find it. Okay, so the next week they came and they said, ay nako, he's only good in riding the bike and in running. I said, that's not only. That is already something. So we'll start with those two. We put him in the running team, track team, and then he tried to show how he's good at biking. In other words, these two things that we started with made him feel that he was good at something and he was not just a problematic child who was not good at anything. So interesting, because when I first asked him why are you here, because I always ask the children, even if the parents have their own view, he is a problem, blah, blah, but the child also has his own view. Why are you here? He said to me, you know where I came from, whatever province, I was bright. Now I'm not bright anymore. I said, oh, he's losing his sense of confidence and maybe competence. So anyway, we started with the two things, recognizing that running, he's built for it, no? And he got recognition for that in school, and he also showed his friends how good he was in biking, teaching them how to bike. Anyway, to make the long story short, we also had play therapy. But in the end, sabi niya, you know what? I'm bright now. I said, really? Why do you say that? My grades are okay, but I know I'm bright now. So from the two entry points that seemingly insignificant talents or tasks that he could do, started to generalize his own sense of confidence in himself. And self-concept started to improve, and everything else started to be okay. So there, no, to recognizing, entering the self-concept to the door of competence. In contrast to that, this 13-year-old girl was poor in reading. And so everybody wanted to help her. So they got a reading tutor, they got an audio supplement for the reading, and then they got a lot of books and experts, etc. So everybody was so helpful, giving her all the possible need for her to be better in reading. She was referred to me just to make sure if there's anything wrong with her. When I first talked to her, I said, hi, how are you? What's your name? She said, I'm Lala, I'm poor in reading. What happened was her identity became tied up with what the people showed her about herself, which was she was poor in reading. So the lesson there is, okay, you can help her in reading, but enter another door toward self and recognize and balance it with what she's good at. Maybe she's good in swimming or maybe she's good in science, but side by side with what she's not good at, you also recognize an area where she's good at, which is an area of competence. So she will not identify herself, her whole person, with what she was not good at, which was what everybody was fussing about. Okay, so balancing that, but you help the child to improve in something, you always balance it with recognizing what he is already good at. Now, let me tell you another very interesting research. This is like 30 years ago when there were no terms for certain things yet that we know now very well. This retrospective study asked the question, how come people suffer through abuse, neglect, etc., all kinds of adversities in childhood, and they still make it? And other people suffer very similar experiences and abuse, etc., but they don't make it. What makes the difference? So in this retrospective study, they came out with two main factors that were identified as helping the people cope with adversity and making it instead of not making it. And the two factors were, one, the persons experience a sense of competence at something. And number two, they met what is called an inspirational person in their lives. Somebody who believed in them, recognized their talent, and helped them develop it. So those two. In present language, that would be called resilience, no? Resiliency factors. But at that time, that word wasn't even used yet. No? So what we're saying here is that it's recognizing a sense of competence is essential or a big part of building resilience. Okay, so it's important now that we are in quarantine, how do we make use of this need, no? I think in a family where we're all together, maybe we can try to discover, now is the time to discover what each person is good at, because I am sure every person there is good at least one thing. And maybe we have not even looked at it, we have not even thought that it would be a good idea. But it could be a game, it could be something that we can discuss together, or we could already recognize what's existing. No? Maybe somebody's good in singing, no? Another person's good in cooking, and maybe another person, for example, an adolescent is very competent in IT, in digital um, in digital matters, so they can teach the lola and lola, or can teach the parents how to email, how to use the cell phone, no, in technology. So recognizing their competence. Let's look at what has happened now. For example, the 70-year-old ladies, I think there were about 3 of them. They were competent in sewing, so they made masks and gave them to the people who needed it, which we all need. And then one of them made dusters, clothes for women. So their sense of competence, they're proud of it, they put it into use, and then they're giving it now to people who are needing it in this pandemic. So I think everyone can discover their own sense of competence and give it to the people needing it. Maybe you're good at looking at what's around the neighborhood and finding something, discovering something, or you're good at listening to people. So whatever competence, talent, skill we have, let's look at it, recognize it, we can be proud of it, and then we can give it to the people needing it right now. And there is so much need for everything right now. So I think that's the message there, no? And we can also recognize the competence of people who are already doing good things, the scientists, the doctors, the policemen who are trained, and people who are doing already, giving of what they know, giving of what they're good at to the world. I think that's the message there. So to end it, everyone, all of us can discover and know and practice our sense of competence, whatever area it is, and give it to the world. So every single person, everyone can approach the pandemic or the crisis with an attitude of I can versus I can't. Because that's what sense of competence does. It gives us an attitude of I can versus I can't. So in this global crisis, we can all say individually I can, and all of us together can say that all of us together can say that we can do it together. We can. Kaya natin to. Together, we can. Thank you.